So a warm welcome to each one of you here to the Swasti Shri webinar series, which is the fourth one for the month of February here, in fourth one happening in the month of February 2022. It's a journey that's been giving me a lot of enriching experience, I should say. The Swasti Shri webinar was started in the month of November. We had the arts and culture was the first topic, followed by food and festivities, and then we had the Indian knowledge systems in the month of January 2022, and now here we are meeting with yet another interesting and very relevant topic, I would say, bringing up children with special needs. Now, before I jump into the topic for the day, I would like to give a brief about Bhogya.online, why we started, and where we are headed. The idea for Bhogya.online was actually conceived about 3.5 years back, and the platform itself was launched about 2 years back. And of course, it was with the support and encouragement from a lot of associates, friends, and family, a lot of well-wishers also. The main idea is that it's kind of maybe slightly different from any other platforms you would have experienced, but this is a platform that I felt very necessary for the expat Indians who are living outside or miles away from our motherland. The life today sets one on a path of material world, a world that we have to experience with our five senses of eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and skin. Now, these being limited in their functions, we never seem to be satiated or contented with our experiences. So, in our quest for satisfaction, we have moved from being, cavemen, and then we became tribals, then we became villagers, then we became city dwellers, and now we are trying to become Martians, creating and leaving behind a whole lot of trash. I'm very sorry to say this, but that's where we are all heading. And what I wanted, or what I want, or what we want is to have a world that is lovable and sustainable, a place where our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren would love to live. So, sustainability doesn't come with some cosmetic lifestyle changes. I believe that these have to be addressed at the grassroots level, meaning our very thought needs to progress towards better thinking in terms of having a better life and therefore a better world. For it is the thought that differentiates one human being from another, and with better thoughts, we can have a better world. And that's with that simple but slightly complicated idea, Bhogya.online was launched, as I said, about two years and 4 months now. And we are driven by our three-word culture: engage, enrich, and elevate. More of this I had explained in a couple of previous videos. I would not want to take more time. As such, again, I would like to extend my apologies for the delay and the confusion with regard to the meeting ID. So this is the basic concept of Bhogya, and here we have a lot of events, a lot of workshops that are aimed for. The workshops are primarily for the children growing up, the children of the expat Indians, and we also have. The idea was to have an event management platform, and COVID happened, but we are still there. We are hanging on there with the support from many well-wishers. We hope to take it to the next level and the next level and the next level. And these programs that we have on Bhogya are all very, curated events, and that would help the expat Indians stay connected to their roots. Now, as we complete our second anniversary, we launched the Swasti Shri webinar series, and these webinar series have been chosen very carefully. The topics for these series have been chosen very carefully, something that I have come across in all my years, which is, close to 2 decades of living in Germany. And these webinars are going to address the well-being of an individual, especially the expat Indians, from different perspectives. It can be physical well-being, it can be emotional, psychological, sociological, or spiritual well-being. Now, we are going to be approaching from all of these perspectives, and I'm hopeful that a lot of us can benefit from the views given by the expert speakers that we have carefully chosen for this webinar series. Now, these webinars are aimed at talking about what's great and what needs to change while addressing the various challenges faced by the expat Indians in Europe, and we are going to find solutions together. Now, coming to the topic of for today, which is bringing up children with special needs. This is a topic again that's very, very close to my heart, for I've had quite a few friends who had, not all of them had the same kind of challenges, but some of them had challenges which they are continuing to face. While some of them moved out of Germany for language reasons, some of them are fighting it out very bravely. We have different kinds of challenges. Now, every child is special, but some are more in terms of their needs. Now, what these needs are, well, it depends on the particular child. For some, it could be an emotional impairment. For some, it could be an intellectual impairment. For some, it could be something like a food allergy. Once my son came back and said, my friend cannot have peanuts. Even if he smells a peanut, he could, faint. And if he happens to eat a peanut, the child could even die. Food allergies are so serious. Then there could be some learning disabilities or learning impairments. But we could also have something more serious. So for that, and to talk about what does it mean to have a child with special needs and how can we cope with the situation at home, we have brought two special speakers for the day. So I would like to introduce or welcome, first of all, Dr. Latamani, who's welcome, Dr. Latamani. So she's a consultant pediatrician and she did her specialization at the University of Mainz Children's Hospital. Her special field of research were inborn metabolic disorders, and she has presented many research papers at the Deutsche Kinderärzte Congress as well as at several international conferences in Europe and in the US. She's been very lucky to work in several countries and she has pursued the interest to do a subspecialty in psychotherapy. Now, seeing children and their development through all these ages, right from birth through their growth, from an organic and psychological point of view, is Dr. Latamani's expertise. And the passion is to help them and their families if there are any blockages in their development. Now, in this special Swasti Shri webinar, she's going to be talking about the human development, the milestones. Actually, we have in Germany, we have the U1, U2, U3, where all these developments of a child are being recorded. She's going to be talking about those milestones briefly, more importantly, about the psychological development. And she's going to give us hints as to what can be, what we should watch out for as a parent. Of course, the doctors are going to do that, but as a parent, it's also good that we also get some hints, and then what to do if there is a delay, where to go, and how to receive help. So, as we are all migrants, we have moved from India, our motherland, to a very foreign land. Of course, we have now made it our home, but what are the challenges, especially for parents with children with special needs? And also she's going to talk about aspects with regard to the trans generations. So we have different generations here, and how can we handle all of these aspects? She's going to give us perspectives with regard to how can we form a self-help group. I understand that it's rather sad that we do not have a self-help group that is exclusively focusing on the expat Indians in Germany or abroad or in Europe. So we are going to be talking about that. So with that, I once again welcome Dr. Latamani and hand it over to you.
Thank you very much for the invitation and the possibility to speak today. I have prepared a few slides, which I would like to just open up. Just give me a second. So hopefully everybody is able to see.
Yes, we are able to.
Okay, wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful. Okay, that makes me happy because yeah.
yeah,
So, dear Mrs. Malathi and dear audience, thank you, as I said, very much for this opportunity to talk about children with special needs. And I thought I'll just open up the subject a little more broadly and speak a bit about human development because human development also includes us, and I think that is also interesting for us. And medicine usually puts it into two categories: somatic and psychological development. That means soma is the body, and psychologically, you know what is meant by that. And in the Western society, usually that is put into two categories. But we know that also in our old thinkings, this should not always be separated. So I think I'll touch a few aspects so that you will know what, like the SOMA says, that is what usually pediatricians like to talk about are milestones, and that are usually, you know, put that you'll be knowing, any parent will be knowing that at certain points of time, children have a development, be it sitting, walking, smiling, interacting, eating. That is what usually you also realize when you go for the checkups with your local pediatrician. And on the other side, there's the psychological development, which is not so well known. And that is also important to know. And that is what I'll show you in the next slides. And also, what are hints to watch out for if delays occur? So, with a newborn baby and as a first time parent, it is not always easy. And our world today is concentrated a lot into pathologies. And I want us to realize that any new life is actually a wonder. If you imagine that there is a baby born so perfectly, and we should try to remember and see the wonders in life. I have a lot of parents who are insecure, and they just, you know, come for reassurance that everything is okay with the baby. So thankfully, generally, that is in most of the cases, everything works fine. Also, if milestones are reached a little bit later, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be written in any series. So, but there are definitely hints, and there are some hints which, like, does the baby hold the gaze? You know, does it have direct eye to eye contact? Does it follow the mother's voice? Does it make sounds by itself? And how is the coordination, for example, hand to hand or hand to mouth coordinations? These are like early ideas and hints we can get while children develop. I thought I'll share a website for you, which is the CDC .gov. It has the milestones. It is in English language, and the milestones are shown with the months up to age 5. But please don't fixate yourself. It's just an information. And as Germany has the possibility to take the children to the pediatrician, that is actually the work we do, you know, to see and find if something is not going the right way. The most important aspects are in development of the children are according to age. How is the movement, the gross motor, which is very obvious when the child can, does it crawl, does it sit, does it turn, does it walk, or fine motor skills, which come also later. Does it take the spoon and eat? These aspects, writing, and so on. Obviously, visual, you know, that charts with black and white stripes, where we can early find out if a child is following, if it's watchful. Feeding. Feeding is also an important aspect, not only when we look at the milestones, but also feeding can sometimes, especially with children in our societies, become a bit of a power game, because usually mothers out of, like, you know, our cultural they are very often get very, very worried about does the child eat enough and all. And children usually at a time want to have their autonomy and eat by themselves. So these are small issues which can come up. Then also social development, emotional development, that the next slide will explain a little bit better. And looking at the speech and the hearing of the child. If the children have a lot of ear infections when they're very young, then sometimes if that goes unrecognized, it can happen that we only realize a little bit later that the child has a speech impairment. And those aspects are very important also in a young age. Um, the next slide will show you a small video, which I find says more than 1,000 words. Just, it'll be a bit 3 minutes, but just watch. I hope the audio is good. If not, please give me a sign.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. And the still face experiment what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby who's about a year of age. And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her. This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, "Come on, why aren't we doing this?" Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions. They turn away. They feel the stress of it. They actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing. It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
Yes, I wanted to show this video because what we see nowadays is that a lot of children are definitely also due to COVID, but also before that, they're restricted in a life, especially in the city, more inside the houses, inside rooms, less being outdoors, and usually also with screens in front of them. That means like always having monitors around, and a lot of also young mothers who are very occupied with their mobile phones. And if you look at the experiment, the still face experiment, that is actually what happens also with this mother who is not available anymore. And in this early time, every reflection the child has for its own development, there's a beautiful saying by a very famous children's psychotherapist who says, you know, the thing is, the child sees the magic in the eyes of the mother, and then it does its developmental steps. So what I want to say is, this is very important for the reassurance of the child and its good development. And here I come to this picture, which I really like. It is from Erickson, and this is about the psychological development. And we'll start with the baby bottle in infancy. All we can give a very small child is actually that trust. It knows mom is always available. She's going to give me my food. She's going to clean me. She's going to wash me. And that is actually, the human is so helpless at birth. And that is what we have to actually give them, try to like be there, which is not always easy, especially for women who have been having a career, having a busy job life, to say, I'll step back and now I will take care of a little baby. And it is also important to talk about these things, because otherwise women struggle too much. It's a natural thing to like go through this shift. And that is usually when the first child is born. Then comes autonomy, early childhood, toilet training, and all that. It's very important also to encourage this autonomy, that the child will, like, go to the toilet, finish the diapers, and not make it feel small if something spills or anything. Shame and doubt is the negative way in early childhood, which can have also psychological defects then later. We have children who, for example, have obstipation, usually because of a very stressful lifestyle. There's not enough, obstipation means, or constipation means that defecation, that means having a stool daily is very hard for them. That means because of a stressful life, everybody wants to run to work and bring them to kindergarten and so on. Children don't have enough time, and that can generate a vicious cycle. That means that can become very troublesome. So that is quite important in early childhood. Preschool, I do see a lot of competitive behaviorisms in this young age, which is hard on the children, because they are not able to build up their own self-esteem, which should not also always be academically, but also as a person, as a whole person. You have this and that kind of characteristics which are very, very beautiful, or which we are very proud of, which should not only be intellectual or cognitive or musical or dancing, but just like, a characteristic like you're very caring, or you're very lovable, or you're very concerned, or you can say what you feel so well, or you can encourage others, things like that, which should always be around, hopefully, while a child grows up in our house. And at school age, also let the child do its steps, and have build up its self-esteem, and not feel inferior because maybe gradings come up, marks come up. And that is, in our societies, we have thankfully very brilliant parents and also children, but sometimes it can lead too much of a competitive behavior, which usually shows its signs not at that school age, but comes in adolescence. That means in adolescence, you have confusion in the young adult. And anyways, society has here also different aspects than what is maybe our origin of thought, and all that can lead also to too much friction. So, and peer groups become more important in that age. So if the relationship before was also difficult, these years can lead to a lot of friction, which can be very sorrowful for both parties. So they might be pushing the guilt back and forth, but guilt is also not something which is good for raising children. Then comes young adulthood. That is what we have already after us, and that is also something to look back happily about. If we have a family, if we have children, if we have found our life partner and have also done our career. All these are positive aspects. That is what young adults are usually working with also. And then this is maybe somewhere middle adulthood, to not stagnate, to always have a passion, something that leads you on. And if things which you have hoped for yourself have worked well, then maybe also give back to society. That attitude of doing something good for a general cause is always something that is going to fulfill. And later in life, in old age, how to settle yourself and let go of maybe some, like, uh, yeah, negative thoughts, or like to just know, okay, this is me, this is my personality, these are things which are important for me, versus still be in a competitive manner, which might only lead to despair. This is a slide which I wanted to share. And yeah, and also for the maturity age, like once you are settled with the own set of values, also to, when you feel powered, also to empower others. This is maybe some of you will be knowing also the Tirukural, which is an ancient writing about how to raise a child. And I like this slide very much because it shows actually what is important for all around education of a young little person who grows up in your house, your child. And we see like the physical motor development, definitely cycling, jumping, running, all those things, but also social concerns, not only egoistically driven developments, but also liking to do things for others, moral development, language development for children, no problem, but also for anyone who comes here, very important. I'll come to that aspect later. Then all around education, not only school education, but all around education, intellectual developments, emotional development. That means also if things don't go well, if you are having failures, to also overcome them, to see them as a chance to grow further. And aesthetic appreciation development, also have an entry into arts. And a very important aspect is the spiritual development, which is in modern society something which, yeah, young people, thankfully not so much in our societies, but in others where that is lacking, and that can cause a lot of anxieties when things are not controllable. What do I do with that? So this is that. And if I have a child and I realize my child has a problem, then what do I do? I have doubts where to go to, where to receive help. And for that, if you have the feeling there is a developmental delay, then the first contact person is your Kinderarzt, your pediatrician, and that relationship would be very important, that that is a good one, that that is a pediatrician you trust, someone you can talk to, someone who will take your aspects seriously. And but on the other hand, also trusting that pediatrician. So that is very important aspect. And that pediatrician, if that will, the doctor will find, okay, this is really something. And if the doctor is reluctant still, you could have an appointment at the SPZ, that is the Sozialpädiatrische Zentrum. We have two in Frankfurt. One is near the zoo and the other one is in Höchst. They have very long waiting times. So if you take an appointment, a minimum of 6 months is needed to get an appointment, but that is also a possibility. It is usually a referral system, but I know parents where, especially not so educated parents who had great difficulties to have their own pediatrician write them reference. And I had to recommend them to just go ahead and give the reference later. So that is the not so best way to do it, but that is a possibility. And then we have Frühförderung. That means that I'll explain on the next slide, but there is a lot of help small children can get through Frühförderung. And Frühförderung is something where different disciplines will help for the development of the child. It is for the preschool age, that means usually from 0 to 6-year-old children are able to have Frühförderung. And there are also very good ladies who you could have a good personal relationship to, who will help you a lot. The Sozialrathaus, that'll also come on a slide later, is the institution that'll help you. And there's also persons, and that should also be a good relationship because they'll help you also with Frühförderung. And also if the child goes to kindergarten, it can have an Integrationsplatz. That is it'll have a helper, an assistance at least for a few hours. And this could also continue in school age. If the child wants to visit a regular school, then you could have an Integrationshelfer who will also assist you. Though I have to say, we have big problems with getting Integrationshelfer at present, because a lot of people are mostly wanting jobs which have higher payments, and that is unfortunately a big problem, especially here in the city. We know that any child that has a deficiency is then will have a diagnosis and usually also a genetic coding why it has this illness, and that is named. But the WHO has brought out this classification of functioning, and it is important. One child with any disorder is not the same way like maybe another child who has the same disorder. So that's why we have the ICF. That means we see what is the health condition, but also what are the possibilities the child still has? What can it do? How far can it participate? How can it be active? And so on. And depending on that ICF coding is actually where we see what kind of help the child would need. This is the Frühförderung, which I had mentioned earlier. So this is the website asffh.de. It will show you all the Frühförder places we have in Hessen, and that'll help you to find institutions where you can get Frühförderung if your child needs that. And this slide explains Frühförderung once more. Frühförderung is usually these three are the most common ones. Ergotherapy is the occupational therapy, helping the child to do things, maybe closing an open bottle, things like that, things you need for everyday life. Logopedy is for speech therapy, and the physiotherapy, which is known to everybody. These are the aspects of Frühförderung generally children can have. I wanted to point out this website, frankfurt.de also, because if you're looking for schools and also special schools, there is the Schulwegweiser, as it is shown on the slide. And on this website, the next slide shows you can look for the school type your child would need. That is, Grundschule would be primary school. This is an example, and you are looking for a private primary school. That would be that you press that, and you'll have a list of all the Frankfurt private schools. And if you look at the right side, there is Grundschule, but there is also mentioned Förderschulen, which is for children with special needs. You could also look at Förderschulen. Förderschulen also have a private sector. There are also a few very good ones to look at. Another very helpful brochure is also on this website. If you into the search, if you put in Frankfurt mein Zuhause, there will be available this brochure, which is a PDF brochure. It is in German, but it is also available on the website in English. And anybody who has a baby in Frankfurt This brochure will give you a lot of help. There is the frühe Hilfen that is actually for maybe also women who are alone or who are have maybe depression or anything. That is something which comes from the magistrate, but it is more for people who have more problems in their houses. In general, after birth, everybody has the right to have a midwife coming to visit them at home, at least about for the first 2 weeks, and that is something which is important. Baby Lotsen is another project. All this is in that brochure, in that PDF. All these things are mentioned, and also if you are looking for a pediatrician, how to find it, or also if there's an emergency, where to go to. That is page 13, for example. And Sozialrathaus, I had mentioned, depending on the area where you live, there is the Sozialrathaus, and if you're in touch with them, they will help you if your child has special needs. I also like this page on that because it shows you where children can be given to. If they're younger than 3 years, from 3 years on, they can go to the kindergartens. And before that, these are also available possibilities. So in general, I am more pro if you are able to do that, to have the children up to the age 3 more in a family setup, which is very beneficial for their development. Then as a last aspect, I wanted to mention migrational challenges. Migrational challenges is an aspect which is repetitive for anyone who comes from another society. That means born and raised in one country, you will know the country, you will feel in sync, thought process, everything will be known to you. But when you come to a new country, usually it starts with a lot of excitement, big hopes, and it is described as often as a you, because you start like with a very positive attitude, but then every day can bring you down. And with years, you have struggles and all, which is normal, but it goes up again. You can go up again. And if in the best part, and I ask a lot of parents, how long did it take for you to reach? And mostly they have mentioned about 7 years. And for that, very, very important aspect is the language. Like entering a new country means also the ability or the possibility to learn a new language. And learning a new language will also help much more to enter the society. And what a lot of people also struggle with, doesn't matter where they come from, actually, if they're from Russia or I don't know, from Nigeria or wherever, is this new cultural identity. It is maybe a fear of loss, but I think it is not a loss. It is a possibility to add up, to hold on to what you like, what you appreciate from your original home country, and what you want to just, put on top. That is defined as a new cultural identity, and it is good if parents are ready for that. I remember I had once a Sri Lankan refugee father who had to come here. He was a teacher back in Sri Lanka, and he said, doctor, I do not know exactly how from our collective system, as I am used to, and now being in this more individualistic society, how I should raise my daughter in that. And I think that is something which is definitely there. We have also more collectivistic and like we have more bigger families and that kind of an aspect. But we should see that as something which has given us so much, which has filled us with a lot of optimism, and as a plus point we have. And the individualistic society gives things which are like, we are mature, we can also do things for ourselves and still be happy and not too worried. And so that why don't we take both, and and go also through, especially the puberty process with our children. This is important. Um, Subculturalism is something which happens, especially in bigger societies who are here for longer years. If we look at the um, groups who stay then in their communities, language will be often not learned, not the German language will not be learned. Subculturalism is the bigger the subgroup is, the more it happens. But I think the beauty also of the city is the possibility to connect with people from so many countries. You can have friends here who are from all over the world, and that is quite enriching. And staying back in only yours maybe also can have some unreflected uh, things. And there also the transgenerational aspects come. We might repeat a lot of things which our forefathers have done. And I think evolution is something which will come forward if we interact. For all the ladies, there is this Frauen app, the women's app. And very recent, I think just a few days back, this Frauen app is also available in Hindi and Punjabi. And it will show you a lot of things that are happening in the city, which are interesting for women. And I wanted to show you, that is out of that brochure, which is also on Frankfurt.de. For example, Maisha, that is an African women's group. And I have had a lot of African children and their families as patients. And this group, if there was any trouble, which is a bigger one, where actually the families needed help from their own society, they've helped me very often. And I've been thinking for quite a while, and now it's become more evident. I would wish us also to have a group like that with our name, but like Indian women in Germany. And usually it doesn't take many people. It's maybe 3 people who are able to take time. And it would be, I think, a big advantage and help for the community, which is big, which is growing. And that I would also really be ready to help in those manners. So that is the outlook. And yeah, so far I'm done now. And thank you very much for the time I had. And I hope it was interesting. And please feel free to ask questions if there are questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was indeed quite informative, Dr. Latamani. I think it provided a lot of useful information, first-hand information, though very focused on Frankfurt. I think if you are living anywhere within Germany, then it would be kind of a similar. So thanks, Dr. Latamani, for taking this time out and also giving this wonderful presentation. So we will now move on to, sorry, before I invite our next speaker, I would like to say if you have any questions, we would take them at the end after the second speaker has also spoken. So you can keep your questions coming in the chat window. You can please use the chat and we will take it up at the end of the next speaker's session. So with that, I would like to invite our next speaker for the day. She is Ms. Ruchi Goyal. She's an international hotel management graduate. She's an international speaker, mentor, advisor, and also an advocate on disabilities and particularly about early intervention. She has been spreading awareness through talks and seminars on how a deaf person can actually talk, and she helps parents of hearing impaired and delayed speech. Ms. Goyal has been she has worked closely with the Ministry of Education for children with special needs at Indonesia, at many universities and other educational institutions in Germany as well. She has been featured in international magazines, besides winning a spot as Woman achiever in the magazine Femina. I grew up reading Femina, so that's really wonderful. And has also lately been featured on the German TV. Being a mentor, she believes in sharing knowledge by building forums and raising awareness through conversations. In addition to all of this, Ruchi is a very good friend of mine, and I'm very happy to welcome her. She's going to be talking about her journey as a parent of a deaf child and how early intervention helps to tackle disability in small kids. And as a parent, as a therapist, and a child, how the three of them as a team, if they work together, and that would bring out the best. And she's going to be particularly focusing on the role of mothers in mainstreaming the child. So, lot of once again, a lot of useful topics. So, with that, I would like to welcome Ms. Ruchi Goyal. Over to you, Ruchi.
Thank you so much, Malati. It's such a pleasure to be here, to be able to share on a platform like this, where talking about my journey as well as early intervention, all those things that are close to my heart. So I'm very happy to share. Well, first of all, I am a mother to a deaf child, yes, and it has been a very tough journey. I will show you. This is my daughter and me. We have been closely associated since a time, she's now 18. And at about 10 months, we found out that she was severely to profoundly deaf. And that changed my life completely because it was one of the most difficult part of our lives where we had no idea how to tackle this problem. So, like Malati has said, I am also, it's my journey started with Prisha, and I did start documenting my story as a blogger, and then sooner, it started to look like that I need to share it with the world because not much was being talked about in the world about deafness and how deaf people could talk. It was about deaf babies will grow up as mute and they will not be able to lead a normal life. And I was very fortunate to defy all that, and today thanks to this journey of 18 years, I'm a public speaker since many years now. I've been mentoring parents online since 17 years, sharing my experiences, tips and guide, and all for free because I feel that mothers empower mothers, women empower other women. There are so many mothers like me. So, and I have volunteered a lot on this on this as well. So, okay, I will stop sharing now. So my journey started when Prisha was born. I have a son already, and I was very excited when Prisha was born. The family seemed complete, and I was always very talkative, and but something felt missing. And soon enough, at about 8 months, we found out that she was severe to profoundly deaf, which completely shattered our lives. And at 10 months, we got her hearing aids. Journey to in those 1 or 2 months was very hard because I started to find out that there were people who were deaf and who were talking. I was very sure that my daughter has to speak. I was a stage performer. I was singing. I was dancing, and here is a child with deafness, and no one around ever could ever tell me that yes, deaf people can talk. I was very fortunate that in few months' time, after we got our hearing aids, we found out my mentor, Mrs. Alaka Hudlikar, who completely changed our life. All her children in those days, I mean, and now it's been 50 years since she started this work. In 40 years, over 40 years back then, all her children went to normal schools. And when I met her, I said, "This is it. I'm going to work hard and find out, how my deaf child can talk." And I still remember seeing those small children sitting right in front, four of these, and chatting away. And they were wearing those behind just the normal pocket model hearing aid. This is in India. And I said, if this child can talk, my child can talk too. But I wasn't prepared for what was coming my way. Alika ma'am was very, very, very strict, very firm, and she really pushed our limit. About speech therapy, it's like this. It's very important for deaf child to be able to hear correctly. So once you have the hearing aids programmed according to the needs, it's all noise, it's all sounds. It's for this child, it makes no meaning. It's just like how if you go to a foreign country like Japan, and all that language that you hear is literally very difficult for you to digest. You would have a headache. You wouldn't want to integrate. Unless you start to learn the language. And this is this is what happens with deaf babies too. So the sound is there, but we have to be able to comprehend those sounds and give it meaning. So this is when my training would start, because a baby of 1 year old, who's just 1 year old, cannot understand what is being spoken. So everything has to be told to this child, that what is this sound? Did you hear this sound? This sound is a crow. This sound that you hear right now is the fan. This sound that you hear is a car going by, and this is mama's voice. This is the bell. So everything has to be told to the child, has to be brought into the child's notice. So it was the first 6.5 years were very intense, because all the waking hours I was talking to Prisha all the time. Every sound that she heard at home or outside, we were already always talking to her about it. It started with bringing to her, did you hear that? A lot of expression. Did you hear that? Coo, coo. That is a koel. Did you hear it? Now, when the mother is talking with those expressions, that excitement, the child also gets excited about listening, because initially, when it was all sound, she would just pick up the hearing aid and throw it. And I was very sure that no, unless she hears it, she's never going to speak, understand and speak. And this is when our journey of very difficult time started, because Alka ma'am is a perfectionist. She's 87, doesn't practice anymore. But those days, when she was talking, I had to listen to everything that she was doing in those 2 hours a week. I would go home and practice it all through those, waking hours of my daughter. So it would start with putting the hearing aids in her ears, and while I was putting those hearing aids, I would actually talk to her. Good morning, Prisha. Did you sleep well? See, Mama is awake. The sun is shining outside. Now, anyone who hears this kind of sounds will actually, the baby who's waiting to, for her, it's literally music to her ears, and she would want to connect with me, because she felt that mama's voice is there. I can hear her. And slowly, with repetitions, recalls, we did so much of therapy, intense conversations, that it was exhausting, but I saw that there were results within a year. Prisha started to respond to whatever I asked her to do. If I said, Prisha, can you, where is mama? She would look at me. She would point out. We use a lot of pointing responses as well. Look that side, look there. And, because I was talking a lot, showing her, she started to look at the source of the sound and not look at my lips. So we practiced in the night. I would switch off all the lights and I would talk to her. I would sit in the balcony and show her things and, talk to her. So with this kind of a thing, she was always looking for excitement. Daily life is very boring. But we made it very exciting with the way I was talking to her. So I would, make her sit on the countertop and cook with her. She would chop vegetables with me. I would give her a blunt knife, and then I would talk to her and tell her, what am I doing? What is this? This is potato. Say potato, potato. And then she would actually try to replicate that sound, which is how normal children also do. So I started to practice all the time, wherever we were always conversing, always breaking it into small sentences and helping her to listen, show her, listen, and then she had to replicate it. It took us very long. By the time she was, I think, 2 years, she started to say, small sentences, but in blah blah blah, 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 blah. She would, and then with those syllables, I started to correct her. No, I hear blah, 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 blah. Come on, say, I want water. And then I would ask her to repeat it. Until she repeated it, I won't give it to her. But if I had given in to her and thinking that, oh, she can't say it, she's still so small, she probably wouldn't, even make that effort. I really pushed her to that limit. So I still remember there was a day, this is like really close to me, this incident. I sat with her in the kitchen. I was cooking, and as usual, did you hear that popping sound? That is mustard. And so I would make her listen to all these soft sounds, opening the tap, closing the tap. So she was used to always listening to whatever I was saying. So with time, she started to actually respond to sounds, and she would look at me, looking at me as me. Huh. So I knew that she wanted to understand what sound is that. So I still remember sitting on that platform. I said, this is potato. This is vegetable. This vegetable is beans. This vegetable is onion. Now, all these 3 sentences, she had to replicate and tell me about it. It took us 45 minutes of pushing, and she was crying, and I just wouldn't give up. And 45 minutes later, we actually just hugged and cried because she actually said it. I would sing a lot. I would just say, where are you going? And she would also want to listen to me. So there were a lot of things that I did, but I always spoke in full sentences. We chose English as a medium of language because I knew that I did not want to let her stay in an environment which was just in that state. I wanted her to be independent and move to any part of the world that she wanted to move to, which became really nice because all the schools in India that time, or even now, have English as a medium of language, main language. And then we went to Germany, we went to Indonesia, and everywhere she has gone, she's able to communicate. So we never felt the need of even the sign language. Why? Because if I had to use a sign language back then, 18 years ago, there was no particular sign language. American Sign Language we cannot use. If it was Marathi Sign Language, because we were in Maharashtra, who would understand her? I would need to be around. So I was very clear that I do not want her to be dependent on lip reading, because again, here and here, they sound the same. One is I hear you, and sit here. They are 2 different hears, but they sound the same. So it can be very confusing even with lip reading. So Prisha is completely, because of this early intervention that we did together, it became her source of understanding of the language and became her mode of communication. So it hasn't been easy. Trust me, many times I just thought I will just give up because it's exhausting. It's very, I had to push her. It was very tiring. Late nights, hearing aids not being programmed properly. The journey has been very tough because some facilities are not there in India. And it being the materialistic world, that the audiologist also really tried to make a lot of money from my need. This is what was another problem. And I still remember she told me, you must change her name, Prisha, because she will never speak it. And I still remember I told her, I will make sure that my daughter speaks her name, Prisha, which means beloved God's gift, because I took 3 weeks to find this name. And she is a God's gift, and I'll make sure she says it. And I still remember when she would say Pitta initially, I was just happy with even that, because I knew one day she will say her name. Today, Prisha is an international speaker with me in every conference, every talk we've done across the world. We have done so many. And I would speak, and she would, she comes forward and she dances. So she doesn't use any sign language. She has picked up Bahasa in Indonesia. She has picked up German. She has picked up English. She does Bollywood dancing. She started her public speaking group. She and I are the founding members at the school because we feel public speaking is very important for, everybody has a voice, everybody has a story to tell. And I feel that it's essential that we all come forward and share our story. This was one of the reasons why I even started a blog 17 years ago in 2006. Because I knew that this story needs to be told. More people who, like, I was a desperate mom, right? And I was looking for that one mother who would tell me that, yes, that your deaf child can talk. So over the years, I have had so many mothers reach out to me saying that, my audiologist has wronged me, badly programmed hearing aids. Could you please help me? 2 years ago, when pandemic hit, there were so many children without speech therapy. And I gave my services for free. And so many mothers reached out for language delay or hearing loss, mildly autistic diagnosis because they do not have the language. So it was easy to put them into that category. But the moment they spent more and more time with their children talking, the problem with our generation today is we have so many gadgets. The children are spending more time there. Mothers are busy either working, and the children have no conversations, because of which this has become a huge issue. And for me, it's very important that the mother, being the primary caretaker, she's the first person the child is with. And if she is not around to talk, who is ever going to talk to the child? You can put her with a nanny. Nanny is also not going to spend. If you do not want to spend time with your child, nobody else will. And so the first 6 years, the amount of time I spent with Prisha, today when I look back, I'm so grateful. She and I are like two peas in a pod. And we are always together, trying to share this, whatever journey that we've had, trying to share that how my presence in her life has been able to change her life story. Otherwise, it is very easy for me to say, oh, my child is a handicapped child, and, or get some pity out of it. I'm not getting support. What can I do? Even moving to Germany, there was a doctor who told us, no, oh, I can't understand her, get her a cochlear implant. I said, my choice was hearing aids. So I do not want that. And I want my child to have the hearing aids because of reasons best known to me, that she can change the hearing aid when she likes. But our audiologist in Germany completely changed that story. And today, she's got limited, problems. She speaks beautifully. If you hear her, you cannot make out. People often tell me that, is she really deaf? Or maybe she is not that deaf, but she's severe to profoundly deaf. She hears at 110 in 1 year, and the other ear is at 85, which is a huge deal. She won the international podcast competition in Abu Dhabi, and she was chosen as one of those first. She got a first prize in the open category from 26 countries. So you can imagine how far we have come, from not being able to speak. Today, we spread this message across the world through our story. How much it has changed the story, just because we believed in ourselves. We worked very hard. Even today, it's like she works till, late night. She has an IB examination in May. She works really hard. She did all her DLP by herself. We are just there to support her. Because why was she able to do it? Because of early intervention, because she's been taught to listen and speak and be dependent on herself. My whole drive always was, what happens if I die today? Who will take care of my child? And that never let me sleep, let me rest. I was constantly looking at how I can support this child, that tomorrow, if I'm dead, who will be able to help this child? A lot of mothers tell me that it's very tough. I can't do it. I do not have the time. But my dear mom, I always tell them, if you do not clean your shit, trust me, no one else will. No one has the empathy and the love and the connection, that emotional bond, except the mom. Now, if I hadn't worked with my speech therapist, I wouldn't have known what she's teaching in the classroom, right? You just close the door, she finishes 2 hours, the child will forget it. But if I am trained, if I know how to speak to her the whole day, I am speaking to her, and that actually reinforces it's a really good practice. The child will learn more, lead a very normal life. Today, I am ready. In few months' time, she will move to herself by herself into a university. Today, my only concern is I just want to have a home where she can take care of herself, which is close to the university. But she is looking to travel by public transport. She's looking forward to being independent in the university where I will not be around. This is what I want. This is all I think a mother with a disabled child wants. So early intervention is so very important. And unless a mother actually, because of the bond that they have, if you just work those first 6 7 years initially, you will see that the child actually becomes very independent. It could be any disability, but the lot of confidence this child will develop, the mother learning all those therapies, practicing at home. My daughter is completely independent. We would make house chores exciting. How exciting is cleaning the room, cleaning the kitchen or bed. But Prashad, I would always make an activity out of it, talking about it, drawing, painting, doing 3D projects, but constantly talking, because that gave her brain more and more vocabulary. And today she's writing essays like 4,000 words, becoming an independent speaker. She gives beautiful speeches. If you listen to her, you will be amazed how independent she is. I would like to share one of those videos with about that I just saw. I have a blog called Impaired but Empowered. Um, so this is the speech that this is my daughter. Share screen. So this is my daughter. Here she's editing the music. This is my mentor. Here, this is in Indonesia. We got an international platform to dance, to share our story. She plays music. She's a high honor roll student. Here she is holding a meeting. She's holding a meeting by herself. Sorry. So that's my daughter. This was her winning speech. You can see more of my journey on Impaired but Empowered. So this is my journey. Oops. So this is where you will find my journey. So in case you are interested, you are most welcome to have a look at it. This is my blog. It's called I've shared my work through Impaired but Empowered, and there is my email address. And you can also do Ruchi 6. If you look for even Ruchi Goyal, you will find a lot of my work online. So this is what I would like to share. Stop share. So I hope this was helpful. This is my message to the mothers. Please do not stop working with your child in early intervention, because whatever you teach them today, that is one of the reasons why a Pandit's child who is, at 3 years of age, they start to, say all the Sanskrit shloks. The doctor's child is able to speak the medical language because they hear that kind of language at home. So all the time, my message to these mothers are, please talk, 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 because unless you talk, it's that your child is not listening to enough rich vocabulary. The child is not going to talk. Also, work very closely with your therapist. Ask questions because it's very important. Only then will you get the answers. With a lot of wrong is being done, a lot of right is being done, but keep that question always in your heart. If you feel that this your therapist or your doctor or your caretaker is not giving the kind of information that is required, or you're not satisfied with the services, please look for more. There's so much help available online these days. Our time, 17 years ago, I was just dependent on my own gut instinct. And a mother always knows. She knows if the child is not doing something or the child is not fine, she will know from within. So do not give up hope, work hard, because trust you me, 20 years down the line, once your child has grown, you will be very grateful, because the child is not dependent on anything. And with a strong foundation, you can have a stronger child. So your foundation has to be very, very strong. So this is, I hope, helpful to anyone who's listening. Disability doesn't mean that you have to give up. Disability just means that you have to fight harder, but it gives you a purpose in life. I had never thought that I would have a purpose today. I feel so happy that I'm able to help so many mothers lead a more rich life. I have opportunities. I get invited for conversations. I have been a speaker in so many ways, and I'm just a hotel management graduate, just a mom. But because of the content, because I never stop sharing, the world is my stage today. And today, when Prisha is ready to fly in the world outside, I'm not worried. And that's what every mother of a disabled child or a special needs child needs, right? So please reach out if you need my help. I'm most happy to help out. You can follow my page, follow my work, or I work through Messenger. Parents send out videos of their children, which are completely for my viewing, and I see them and I see how I can help them. And then they have to follow. I'm also very firm, because I feel that if I'm spending this much energy, the child should benefit from that. And I have very successful and happy moms whose children are now leading normal lives because of the work that we did together as a team. Because I feel that mother, therapist, and the child, they are a team. And together, if you work hard, you will see a difference. And if my life can change, trust me, I feel every person can do this. If I can do this, you can also do it. So I would like to thank Malati for giving us this opportunity to share my story. I hope I'm able to inspire even one mom through this, and let her know that there are people who are happy to share work, and happy to share their experiences and the difficulties, challenges, just so that they can get help for themselves and their little one.
Thank you, Ruchi. That was an amazing journey that you have shared. Though I've heard it a few times in the past, it's always something new that I can learn. helping hand is something that's very rare to come by these days, and I'm really happy for the work that you're doing. Not only helping Prisha live a normal life, it's also the other parents that you're helping out, and yeah, on behalf of the greater society, I'm really thankful for the work that you're doing. So with this,
Thank
I open up for the questions. So we don't have very many people attending the session, but I'm really glad for those of you who are part of the session to, if you like, turn on your videos to ask the questions, or you could ask on the chat, and we will take it up.
I would like to, on the onset, thank Bhogya for organizing such really helpful and wonderful seminars, which are really useful to the world. And my heartiest congratulations to you, Ruchi, for all the hard work you've done with your daughter, and best wishes to your daughter for her future. I'm sure sky will be her limit. But I have a question to Dr. Lata Maniji. Uh, I heard, so please pardon my ignorance, Ruchi and Dr. Mani, but I was under the belief that when one wears a hearing aid, he or she would be at least as normal as a normal person. That applied to a child as well. So if the young Miss Goel started wearing a hearing aid at the age of 10 months. Sorry, yeah, at 10 months, I would have actually expected the kid to be able to listen to all the sounds and noises like any other normal baby. So I agree that the first 10 months are lost in this baby's life with respect to the information that he or she would have heard, and also the 9 months of incubation in the mother's womb. But then why this tremendous additional effort is my question. I mean, yes, additional effort, yes, but why so much?
Well, the thing is, when you first put on the hearing aids, it's like I explained in my example that if you go to Japan, for example, then you cannot understand the language, right? And then for you, it's completely, you may not even understand one word. And if you sit there for like 10 minutes in a conversation where, rich in Japanese, after some time you would just want to leave. Now, this child had complete silence for so long, has never heard what even a softest sound. Like for her, if I scream in her ear, she's just about able to hear. It's that bad. In the next to the left ear, anything could be blaring and she doesn't hear anything.
No, I get the point.
Yeah.
But then after 10 months, she's being introduced to the world with all the sounds and noises. So
Yeah.
how would the baby's brain perceive it? So it's more a medical question for me. I understand any human being who's not a Japanese left in Japan would suffer. So all of us would be in the same boat. And I know that words do make this. There was an interesting program. I'm sorry if the question is getting draggy, but then there's an interesting program that I've been watching on Netflix called Babies, and they actually say that children can understand more languages than adults can, even foreign languages, because of the facial expression. So that's why this question, why this additional effort? Despite I also understand that one needs to get used to the device because of the frequency it just mentioned. There's a lot of brain ear coordination that's
There is
happening.
a lot of background sounds, plus these sounds are so strong that the child cannot understand anything, because it is only, she doesn't even know when something falls, whether it is something has fallen. How will you understand that something has fallen? Because that sound is just a sound for her. You have to help her to comprehend the sound. You have to give the name or a meaning to that sound. So if I say this is a glass, now she can see it, that this is something, and if I do this, she will say, okay, we are drinking water. But this is called a glass. I have to explain to her that what is this? This is a glass. How do you, so you have to then explain that this drink. Now, what does drink mean? It means nothing unless I show her with the action. So everything that she was seeing had to be given a name. Everything that she heard had to be given a meaning. And then these two have to be brought together and made into a sentence. Now, this thing hasn't moved for 9, 10, 12 months. Now she has to make this effort to even move this and give that kind of a clarity of speech, which is a big effort. And children, they find it so noisy that I remember it was a 1 lakh rupee hearing aid. She picked it up and threw it in the dustbin because she hated it. And I had to, for the next 1 month, I had to work so hard to just get her to put it into her ears. And that's when my voice has to be so pleasant or so exciting with my expression that she wants to hear it. So it's
Right.
so difficult for a baby. It's very easy. She was very happy without the hearing aids, very happy in the silent world. But the world sounds are important for her safety, for
I
her
totally
integration.
agree. Yes, I
Yeah.
totally agree. Yeah, yeah. I would actually like to know your perspective, Dr. Mani.
Yes, I think we are talking about two things, and your question is very interesting because one is communication. What is communication? No, so if you take this, I don't want to make Ruchi's daughter example, but maybe that is the most eminent one now. The child is, thank you. The child is born and the child is happy, the way it is. It is the outer world that is different, but the child by itself did not hear and was fine and happy. And that is what I think Mrs. Ruchi is trying to explain, that this took effort in one sense. Your question, I think, is more about what happens. It is the auditive information passage into the brain. That is something the child did not need. It was fine, and it was communicating most probably through the facial or visual things it could perceive. So that is the new aspect, and that is what you meant with the series, that babies understand everything. So we
Right.
all communicate actually, and that is what we lose as adults. We get so much into the words, yeah, we get so much into titles or whatever, but we lose what children have. And I say always, children, they know exactly. You can watch your small, if you have small children, watch them, to which persons do they like to go and whom do they avoid. Maybe someone smiling and speaking, and but the child will avoid it. So the children have that sense still, which we lose because we are, yeah, maybe excited when we hear that person is this or that, or has this position. So these are these two aspects which play a role. And
No,
yeah,
my question was more
yeah,
about how efficient is the auditory to brain communication um, in such cases
yeah,
where a hearing aid is being used. I know that it's extremely challenging. I mean, I know
yeah,
it only because I have read about it. Uh,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I have a great respect for people who have faced it as a challenge, both as the patient and the family. And much often, I agree that the family goes through more stress than the patient itself. But my question is more technical. Um,
mhm,
Assuming that a child is using the hearing equipment, hörgeräte, then I
mhm,
would say that at that point, yes, there is a 10-month of educational gap for this child. This child can be theoretically considered as a year younger than her or his peers of 1 year olds. So can be treated as a 0 year old. Theoretically,
yeah,
this is
yeah,
all
yeah,
very
yeah,
theoretical.
yeah, yeah,
So, and then you start with the auditory, input from that age onwards. So how is the developmental progression really hindered
yeah,
because
yeah.
of?
You're right. The earlier it is found out, and the earlier the hearing aids are given to the child, usually the better the outcome. And your question is, will that child be able to be normal, in
So,
its speech
but
and
my
hearing?
question is, why do children then in this
Yeah.
case need additional support?
Yeah, could I probably rephrase it for better understanding?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe,
Malti, if you've understood me
yeah.
right.
Again, a very ardent supporter of Bhogya, Nagashri there with the question. So her question, if I have understood it correctly, is that I mean, just as soon as we get the hearing aid, we are able to hear, and we are able to, since our vision is great, so we are able to see everything and then also hear. Why is it that a mother or a family member has to go through all this effort with the actions and just to say this is a potato? It took 45 minutes, like what Ruchi said. That was very touching indeed for me to hear that story.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So why does it need a 45-minute effort for the baby to get trained to say this is a potato? She can hear now with the hearing aid. She's able to hear this is a potato.
No, but the thing is, a 10-month-old, I wouldn't expect
Not
even a
10-month
10
old.
month.
That was a 2-year-old.
No,
Oh, I
see,
thought,
even
no,
for
she was
her
10.
to, at 10 months old, when you put the hearing aids on, first of all, it is, see, hearing device is not as like, you're wearing spectacles and you can see it. Hearing aid device,
Okay.
yeah, so it is just a bit of hearing, but it will amplify the sound that is the loudest. Now, sometimes it so happens I'm talking to my child here, but the background sound, there is a whistle of something else, the car is passing by, so that takes over. Now it is the normal tendency of a deaf person to actually not listen to the voices and just be in their own world. It's so
Okay.
much
Get the
easier.
point.
So
Yeah,
what
that's the
happens is
challenge.
now a normal child actually is listening to all these background sounds, like he's playing with his toys, but he can hear you in the kitchen. Oh my god, this dhobi hasn't come, and daddy hasn't brought this, and I'm going to really scream at him, and you're screaming at the other child also. How does a second child already understand a lot more things than the which is being taught to the first child, because he's hearing while he's playing? But for a deaf
Right.
child, this is very challenging. So for Prisha, when she's even wearing today she's wearing one of the latest hearing aids, okay, and she's even wearing a mic which the teacher is wearing, and so all the lectures are getting streamed into her ears. But it is so difficult for her to even understand sometimes because of the mask. Then there is, even the high frequency sounds can sound very different. So her brain has to be programmed to understand even those sounds, high frequency sounds like shh, these are very difficult. They don't hear it. So if I would say fish, she only was hearing e. So I had to give her those visual e, fish, fish. And then with repetition, now fish again has no meaning. So I would say fish is in the water. Fish is being fried. I can smell fish. Now, when she hears all these repetitions, that's when it registers in her brain. And the more you recall, they have a tendency to actually forget those words very easily. So for them, more repetitions are required. The normal child will pick up 15 to 20 words. These people will only pick up 5 to 7. And if you're not repeating them, she can forget it. So it's very complex. Even today, when Prisha is actually doing presentations in a classroom, I make sure that she is recording those audios and videos and bringing it or sending it to me, and I'm correcting it even today. So today, sometimes she'll say instead. No, Prisha, I heard instead. Instead. So again, because it's easy for her not to do that. So all the time, I'm still like, she's 18 now. She's doing all, if you see her presentation, you'll be surprised. But still today also I have to do it because, and if she's not listening during her vacations, normal child also regresses. If you've noticed, they go back to school, they do not remember, they have gone back in English and maths and reading. For her it's even more. So during her vacation she has to even study more or read more or listen more so that she doesn't regress when she goes back.
Right. Thank you so much for educating me, first of all. And I really hope and pray that the medical technical devices or medical electronics companies get better faster and can help people
Today we
much
are
better.
actually we are brand ambassadors of Phonak hearing aids, the very hearing aid she's wearing. So they loved our journey. In fact, they invited us, and I make videos for them to educate the people, worldwide now. So She's also a brand ambassador as well as I am. So
Awesome.
Yeah, that was an awesome explanation. I mean, the more we hear about it, the more intriguing it becomes. And for me, it's more about gratitude. I think we've come a long way in terms of science and technology, and I think world is ready to help a lot many more people. I would like to shift. I mean, that's really amazing, Ruchi. But I would like to take up other questions also. There's if there's anyone in the audience who has any other question, or I have a question from the email that was sent to everyone. So if nobody's asking a question, yeah.
I'd like to take hi.
Hi.
I'm Kishore. I'm Swati's husband, and Ruchi ma'am very well knows about our family and the history of my child and the challenges we go through, because she is one of the good mentors for us in Germany after we came to Frankfurt. I'm thankful to her first thing, and yeah. So the question I have, most of the things my wife then and there will get clarification from Ruchi ma'am by calling her or messaging her. But there's one question for me now. I'd like to ask, because my daughter is at the stage. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. You're very much audible. Who is this question addressed to?
Yeah, it's a question to both Ruchi ma'am and also the doctor. Okay, so I just one ask actually. Let me explain. This is something like a scenario situation for me that whoever can answer or can help me or guide me, I'm happy to take. So the situation is, my daughter came to a situation now. She could read English. Whether she understands that or not, I don't know. But she could read whatever we write with the free handwriting also. Not only printed, she also somehow she captured that skill. I don't know how she picked up. But speech therapy is what we are going through is not anywhere as written. It's only picture related, or we are trying to explain. She could understand many images in English. Now I'm in a situation, she is 7 years old now. Last year, 1.5 years back, we managed to get integrated kindergarten place. But in integrated kindergarten, they are not actually speaking in English with her. Most of the time, the communication to her will be in German. We were worried whether she could understand or not. Till now, there is no too much of complaints from kindergarten. They are saying that she managed to understand a bit of German also. That's why she is responding to us. But the problem for me now, we have to take a decision. I'm trying hard to get whether I can get the international school for her or not. She is definitely autistic kid as per the psychiatric report. But we are trying our hard for past 4 years at least. Now, is there any way we can push her here in the regular schools, in the international schools? Will that help her, or do I need to change the country? Because no, she never speaks even a single word in German for now. So this is one doubt running in my mind, because professionally, I'm very much comfortable with my job and everything here, but my priority is my daughter. So I need to take a decision this year before I push her for the regular school, the Grundschule.
I would presume Dr. Mani could answer this question.
It is not so easy for me. Also, the question before had, because it is much more complex for me. The question before, I realized we have like inner or outer ear damages and so on, and all these things play a role in what the child needs. Now, we covered that question, but your question is even more complex, because we have the aspect, I don't know exactly what the impairment of your child is. I assume it is also a hearing impairment, or?
No, there is no physical issue. She could hear, she could see.
Okay.
Only for her, the problem is with the
technology and all that, and that's why we can also communicate today also from so far away. But I would have to see a patient also to have, to give you something that is also worthwhile. I cannot just, because there are different aspects. when you say she is speaking to you in English and she's ready for that, that is something she likes to do, or she interacts in English. But the outer world is German. We don't know how she feels there. There can be also other reasons why she is, wanting to stay in one language and not go to the other. So all these aspects
Yeah.
play a role also.
Yeah, she has so much behavioral issues, and actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think Ruchi ma'am can add something because she knows the history.
I don't want to say something not worthwhile,
Yeah, I totally understand,
Yeah.
Dr. Mani. I mean, this is something that would require a deeper analysis, I would think. Maybe an appointment in person or something like that would help, Mr. Reddy. This is only a program where we give some of the basic information. So she had shared on some websites that you could go through where there are possibilities of getting more information or more support from the state. So perhaps you could try that, or maybe you could get in touch with Mr. Mani later with regard
Sure.
to a specific issue. Anybody
Sure.
else? No. So I just have a couple of questions that I received. So there's one Mr. Vishwa Muthuswamy asks, so does special schools really help and do better for the special kids, or is homeschooling by parents a better option? And he also continues, my opinion is a special school has different kind of specialities with kids at different levels. Thus, sometimes a child with slightly better abilities when socializing with kids having a bit more difficulties tends to be at a risk as the child tends to copy or imitate. It's not clear whether the situation of the child will improve or get worse in the longer run. Please share best practices and experiences.
Well, if I can say, I had supported a school in Indonesia. This was also told to me that, why don't you try her in a deaf school where, Prisha could benefit, because it was in the early years, right? But I was very clear that, there are different disabilities again, and different levels of hearing loss as well in a deaf school. Now, if she's going to be there, it would be difficult for her to be listening to me, because she'll be very comfortable with other disabilities, and there is definitely no need for the child to push themselves. Like Prisha had her best friend, she was older to her, and her speech was really bad, and she struggled to even speak. We couldn't understand anything. And the moment Prisha was in her company, we saw that if she spent 2 hours with her after she returned, we could see there was a huge regression in her speech. So because she would also visually talk with her, she would also make adjustments with her, and so we were always very nervous when she returned, that the pressure was there. And when I was in Indonesia supporting a special school, I used to do volunteer work there. We did see that there were different disabilities in children in one classroom, and they actually got so comfortable with each other that they imbibed each other's qualities. So there were some parents who said, oh, I don't want my child with a Down syndrome child because he's picking up those habits. He just has some other issues. So it does happen. I will not deny it doesn't. And there were a lot of parents who did voice out their opinion. They were not for it.
That aspect also, maybe, that is what we have been working through. Maybe 8 years ago, it was about, we had special schools where children with special needs were sent to, and more parents were asking for the inclusive schooling. And I see also, if children go to a regular school and they don't have a very big impairment, it helps them very much for their progression, because they are with the other kids. But especially when they're smaller children, in puberty, I have also seen that kids can get quite upset when they see how, like, the others, just grow and become very, very independent. I've seen also children with impairments who in that age go through a bit of a depression. So it is not so easy to say generally. I think it is If the child needs a lot of help, it is very impaired in its abilities, then special schools can give them joy because they can also interact with other children. So that is just like a general thing. But again, it comes to individual child and what its abilities are, what the family wants. Also, the psychological impact on the child is always important to look at. We don't want a child that gets very unhappy.
Sorry. So it was like, I mean, I was also having a chat with one of my friends who happens to work in a school, which probably like Dr. Mani mentioned, it's a kind of an inclusive school, and we were having this chat about whether which is better, special schools or the regular schools. So apparently, like maybe like what Ruchi mentioned, there could be a flip side. But what she mentioned, the stories that she shared were really heartwarming. It kind of There was a child with Down syndrome, and eventually over a period of few years, the child was there from grade 1 until grade 9 or something. So the other children were tolerant towards this kid, which means that as these kids grow up to become citizens of the society, they would be more sensitive to the needs of such children growing up to become adults. And she was particularly mentioning about we have these school dramas, we have these annual day celebrations that we have, and the school encouraged such children with special needs also to participate in these programs. And during the practice sessions, the teachers had to put so much effort to get this child to perform. But on the day, as the teachers were watching very nervously, the kids around gave the boy or the girl, the child, a small nudge, and this child started to perform. It was like, wonderful. So it just teaches the children around how to behave with this child. And this child also had learned how to react in a particular situation, even though the situation is kind of alien because there's going to be a huge audience in front of them. But still, the child learns, and the other children also learn a lot of things. So this was just one episode that my friend shared with me, but there were a lot of positive stories, is what my friend tells me. So, but yes, there could be a plus and a minus. But in such inclusive schools, even in Frankfurt, I have a friend who's a special educator. Frankfurt is now moving more towards more towards having these inclusive schools. So we have a special educator in each of these classes where we have these special children. They're being taken care of, is what my friend reassures me. But having said that, we have these, like Dr. Mani shared, we have these special, what is it called, SPZ, Sozialpädagogische Zentrum, and then we have these Förderzentrums where parents can reach out. But what would be amazing is, like Dr. Mani mentioned again, to have a community group like the African women have. Perhaps somebody has to take the lead. A few of us have to get together and ensure that we spread the message that we have such a group here in Germany for the expat Indians. That would be something amazing to have. And before we close, I just want to have one last question answered. So this is by Smriti Srivastava. Yeah, that's also maybe a technical question and an involved question, but nevertheless, if you could have a brief answer. How do we handle these special needs kids as they grow up?
How do we handle them?
Yeah.
Actually, that would have been my question too, Dr. Mani. Sorry.
Oh,
I
okay. How
was,
do we handle?
we're only focusing at children and puberty, I mean, adolescents, but how about adults? This is the need of the day too.
How with adults?
How about, adults
Okay.
because they will eventually grow in and become adults in the society. So
That
I
is
think
true. That is true. As a pediatrician, I can tell you, usually they stick with depending on how far the special need is, but we also have adults who stay with us, how they will enter society. There are, depending on what they can do. In Germany, they have a lot of, it is still called Behindertenwerkstatt, or That is where people who are adults who can go to work, they usually do work they can do with the hands, working with wood or different things. So there are possibilities and institutions that do that for them. There are other groups. The VAE, for example, is a group that also does a lot for adult being that people, and that is how life actually proceeds for them in adulthood. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can share my experience, well, Prisha is 18 now. She's an adult. Well, I have a son who's 7 years older to her. And so it wasn't a cakewalk for me because 7.5 years of difference. So handling two different sexes and also a huge age gap, it was very tough. So I would always communicate a lot with my children, and I would never show favoritism just because she's got a special need. That means she gets special treatment. I treated them both equally. But yes, when it was a disability, I would talk to my son and explain to him that yes, she can't hear you. So if you're going to be screaming and shouting, why you haven't heard me, that doesn't make sense at all. And also, when Prisha was growing up, she's gone through so much of bullying and trying to accept her hearing aids behind the ears cosmetically, how. But I never made her feel. I From very early in her childhood, I used to have a lot of conversations telling her, it just because you are deaf doesn't make you the only thing, that your identity is only deafness. We have to see what our positives are. We are fighting a big battle and we will make it happen. And so your identity should not stay stuck as a deaf person. It should become as a child who conquered and who's going to make a difference in the world with her own story. We will write our own story. We've been given a story to given a certain challenge in our life, but we will make sure that we will turn it into a success story. So we've been through lots of ups and downs, moving countries, moving schools. She was bullied by the school's teachers so much. It's not been easy. But there were times she had suicidal thoughts, and I would be afraid to leave her alone. She would ask me, why am I born with hearing aid, or, with I have to wear these hearing aids. Everyone can understand in the classroom, I can't. But at that time, that conversation is very important. And I think the mother, if she's able to hold that emotion, I would cry inside. But I always put up a strong front, because I told her, I said, what's the other option? Shall we just break down and say, okay, we are deaf and blah, the world has been wrong and blah, 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 blah. Or we just say, okay, we have this problem, how can we overcome it? And look at your positives. Today you are doing this and you are doing that, and so that becomes your story. And since from early, I always showed her how she's, from one day to the other, what have we conquered, what have we achieved. Put up lots of her artwork around the house, bringing her, helping her to sing, talk. It became her own, thing of seeing the positive of life and not be stuck in that little hole of that. So I feel for every, and in my family, both my sisters have disabled kids. My middle sister has a Down syndrome child, and the youngest sister has an albino child. So having three children who are disabled, but we never let that define us. What defined us, that they became strong individuals, strong girls who are known for what they have been able to achieve and not just being seen as disabled children.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel, that conversations with your children are very important.
Very true, very true. Especially when it comes from a mother who understands the child really well. I think it makes a world of difference. I would like to again, add to this wonderful story, another story shared by a public speaker when she was invited to a conference where there were lots of mothers, also some fathers, who were doing amazing work for their children. And there was this one mother. Um, she shared the story of her son who was severely autistic. The child was also there. It was not a child, it was a 22-year-old son she had. And this son, while the conference was happening, he openly and loudly said, I want to go to the loo right now. It must have been so embarrassing for this mother. She kind of quietened the son, talked to him like, he was a baby. And she says, every single day, I have to bathe my 22-year-old son. She does that. And she wasn't, she wasn't shaken when she said that, but I almost had tears in my eyes. And the next sentence that she said was, he's a 22-year-old son, and I have to bathe him as a mother, as a woman. I consider myself so holy because I equate myself to the pujari or the archaka who bathes the Tirupati Balaji every day. So whatever punya that he is going to accrue, I'm going to accrue. So I mean, this public speaker was like, I'm sure she must have been dumbstruck by that and would have wanted to fall at the woman's feet. But amazing such women are, and my heartfelt gratitude to all of these women and men who are doing amazing work, and also to Dr. Mani, who's been studying this from the inside. So I think this was to be an hour and a little over an hour webinar, but it's already 2 hours, and I really thank each one of you for
Sorry, Malti, just so I'm really sorry to break you, but just a small piece of information. I volunteer at Caritas, and I know that Caritas, along with Landratsamt in many of the cities, are doing a lot of service to different organizations, I mean, different groups of people here in Karlsruhe and around. They support foreigners or immigrants who come here and then have even communication issues because they don't know German. So they provide free translators. And in Mannheim, they are working on a lot of issues. Down south, they are working on groups to support families who have special need for other family members, because I think the family drains out at one point or the other because they're constantly working and they need to tank in energy too. So they have like special groups for that, and they also have groups where people can go and volunteer at hospitals and take the load off of even the nurses and the doctors working there. So
do they have
I think
their support in Frankfurt now?
I do. That's why, I think the best would be if you just go to your Landratsamt Caritas or any Caritas organization and approach them. I'm sure you can get a lot of information. So this is just an information I would like to share because of the forum.
Yes, it's spelled Caritas. Am I right?
That's right.
Caritas.
That's right.
And there's also
thanks for the info. In fact, I have really, this is really gonna help me because I have an appointment with the special school this month 16th. That is Mosaic School, we call it as here. So they demanded that you need to bring your own translator because I could not understand German. So
okay,
that's
for translation, maybe you can even contact, you just generally contact Caritas and they may be able to guide you. But these see, I work as a translator, but I'm not a professional German translator. But then I will achieve the goal that is needed. I've been trained to do that as a volunteer. So I'm sure you can find someone.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need an official translator here. Even a friend, someone who's able to speak both the languages, your mother tongue or English or German, especially someone who understands German and can translate it to the language that you understand. So it could be a friend who can help you. Yeah, and there's also this.
Ma'am, if you permit one small follow-up question I have for Dr. Malti. So actually, my daughter is she's having digestional issues, and I have an appointment in SPZ as well on this month 17th with psychiatrist. Can I request them for because till now we were requesting a pediatrician, it's never been done. Is that possible to do any kind of physical checkups which is really required for any digestional issues? Because she cannot go for stool for 2-3 days also sometimes. We really couldn't understand. We tried to make a note of all the foods which we are trying to give, but there is no constant reaction but for particular food or anything. But sometimes suddenly she's not able to go for poo for 2 to 3 days, and it is becoming a difficult situation for us to send her comfortably to the integrated kindergarten. I'm sorry for asking after the time passed, but it's very short if possible.
You must be having your local pediatrician to help you with that, or?
Yeah, the local pediatrician is not so friendly for me, but that's where actually we are struggling to go
That's
to
okay,
SPZ.
but you do need, if you have problems, you do need, if it is not that pediatrician, you do need a pediatrician, because SPZ is there really swamped, that's why. So the
So
local
they won't be able to do these tests. Okay.
most probably the SPZ not, but then the children's hospitals, they also have a gastroenterology department, no?
Is that possible to change the pediatrician here? Because is that too difficult? Because
Frankly,
getting a
we have
pediatrician
a
itself
bit
is
of a tight situation. There are not so many pediatricians, and those who are there are filled up. So before losing the one you have, it is better to look for another one. You can definitely look for a new pediatrician.
So it is possible to change with smooth. Okay.
You could change, yeah. You could change. If it is a difficult, that's what I meant with it has to be a good and reliable relationship with the pediatrician. And sometimes also, if it is not in the city of Frankfurt, a bit around in Bad Vilbel, Offenbach, which is not far, or Neu-Isenburg or something, maybe there also you can find a pediatrician you will like better.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes, I really wish the best of luck for you, Mr. Reddy, and I hope you find the right kind of solutions for your child. I'm really happy that you're wanting to help. That's something that you really should pat your back on, and with Ruchi's support, I'm sure you'll be able to tide through the tough times. Yeah. So I think with this we really have to wind up. It's been 2 hours. So I would like to thank everyone for being part of this wonderful journey, and especially this particular webinar. It's a very serious topic. I understand that a lot of people have not joined. Maybe they didn't want to identify themselves, or whatever reason it could be. But nevertheless, like I told you, this is being recorded and it will be out on YouTube, so it could benefit the society at large. So my first thanks goes to each one of the audience here. Without your presence, this would not have been so meaningful as we feel it right now. So thank you for being here, taking your time out. And next, I would like to thank Ruchi for sharing her very emotional journey. The trauma that she faced must have been very enormous, but the smile on her face, especially the story when the child was able to say, "This is potato, this is beans." It was really, I could feel the pain and the joy that Ruchi must have felt at that moment. I'm really amazed, and I'm more than ever I'm able to appreciate the kind of effort that she puts in to help or to mentor so many other parents from all over the world. I mean, to put an 18-year-old on the World Wide Web and make her talk. On the one hand, it's very motivating, it's very inspiring, but on the other hand, to think of an 18-year-old daughter to be there requires a really brave and large heart. So
a lot of people actually told me, why are you doing this? I said, no, it's not. I'm doing it because I know what it means. I had not seen some child talking, I wouldn't have. So I think somewhere we have to start sharing our stories and not be ashamed of it or be shy of it,
yeah.
whatever it is. Unless we share, we don't know.
True, and I mean, look at the effort that she has taken to document that. You see pictures of her with her baby. I mean, it requires. I mean, people talk of visionary leaders. I mean, this is amazing. This is amazing, and I'm very happy that you shared this. And please continue to do the wonderful work that you're doing. And again, my thanks also goes to Dr. Latamani for having taken this time out to bring out that wonderful presentation. Audio visual is always good, and it's really nice that you also touched upon various aspects of how to identify what are the different milestones and what can we do, and why early intervention is very important. As a pediatrician and as a psychotherapist, I think we had a very, very nice doctor as part of this webinar series to talk to us about this. And I'm sure many, whoever is watching this later can also get in touch with you if they have more questions. surely we should have a community, we should have a group that I think more and more I hear of so many parents having kids with special needs. I don't know the reason. I really wanted to ask this question to you, but considering the time, I think I would keep this for another day, another day, another event. So thank you, Dr. Mani, for the lovely work that you're doing and what you shared with us. So thank you once again to all of you on behalf of Bhogya.online and the Swasti Shri webinar series, where we're talking about what's great and what needs to change. Thank you and have a lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye
very
bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.